Welcome to the first part of the Fireclaw Werebear through Hell. However, before getting into Hell, I'm going to farm some levels in the Nightmare Terror zones. How much you want to level before going into Hell depends on what you are comfortable with. If you are a mean, lean, killing machine, you can go straight there after defeating Bale in Nightmare. If you're not comfortable with that, you can farm the Terror zones all the way up to level 75 or even 80 if you want. Just don't do like me and almost die in the pits, be safer than that. During my Terror zone farming, I decided to queue up 3 IO runes to a Lum rune, which I then used to make a smoke rune word. This rune word has a bunch of mods, but they could all be downsides for all I care. I just want the 50% resistance to all. Those couldn't have come at a better time, cause in Hell you get minus 100 to your resistances. If you saved Anya 3 times, they will be down to minus 70, but we've only done it twice so far, so it's minus 80 currently for me. Resistances are a damage modifier for elemental damage. The base is 0. At minus 100 you take double damage, and at 75% you only take 25% damage, which is why resistances are the most important stat in the game. Skill wise, it's Fireclaw plus its synergies and some points into the bear skills. Gear wise, I have an Algae weapon with 2 shale runes in it, a lore in a base with some oak sage levels on it, a rare amulet with some resistances, an ancient pledge, the smoke I just made, Dragon's gloves, belts and boots for the combo, a lightning resist ring and a fire resist ring. In the Den of Evil you can tell I need a better weapon. The physical damage on my Algaes is really starting to fall off. It takes about 1,000,000 hits per fallen to deal with them. It's a good thing these guys are pretty harmless. Things that aren't immune, like corpse fire here for instance, all go down very easy and won't be a problem for the rest of the run. Cause if there's one thing we do, it's a lot of fire damage. Rakanishu fortunately isn't very physically tanky, so even though he is immune to fire, I can clear out the way to the stones no problem. In Hell, there are lots of things to be careful of. Auras around monsters are always a cause for concern. This group here has a might aura. You don't need to do anything special to deal with a might aura, but you should be aware that they hit much harder than they would normally, so adjust accordingly. The more scary thing here is that this boss bag also has the cursed modifier. This makes it so that when they hit you, an orange cloud will be above your character. This is the amplified damage curse. The best way to deal with this is to heal it off by going to town. I usually don't bother doing that though, but you need to pace yourself, and when in doubt, just go heal. If you're really stuck on a pack like this, that is immune, cursed and might aura enchanted, you can always just leave the game and reroll. Along the way I picked up an amulet with 17 all resist. 4 times 17 is 68, which is lower than the 74 my current amulet is providing, but the better split gives me much more flexibility in my gear choices, so I decide to equip it. I do the wave for Kane so he can escape, but the ring I get as a reward wasn't very good. I'm very overcapped on resistances, so I decide that I want the attack rating more than I want the resistances my old ring had, and equip it anyway. The Blood Raven fight isn't very hard. She doesn't get any special modifiers, so you can just walk up to her and slap her around a bit until she dies. The counters can follow you through doors. You can use that knowledge to recharge or reposition things in the fight or to split things up easily. The countess herself gets a bunch of random mods, so sometimes she is extremely dangerous and sometimes it's the easiest quest in the game. She is the best place to farm runes up to Ist, so if you ever want to force a rune word in a run, she is the girl to go farm. In the barracks I tell Agent Smith there is no hammer, you can fight this guy if you want, and as you can tell, I don't want, so I go and deliver Chassi a little gift. Except for my weapon, my gear is pretty good. I don't really need anything specific for the imbue. It is rarely worth it to imbue weapons, so I decide to just roll a Druid helm. I end up getting a helm with light and cold resistances with an additional 2 sockets. If I ever want to switch things around gear wise, a helm like this will make fixing my resistances much easier. For the Andariel fight, I drink a boatload of antidotes. Why more than one you ask? Cause in the game's infinite wisdom they never bother to tell you that these things stack. Not in effect, but in duration. Every single one you drink adds 30 more seconds. Just think about how many you need and then drink a bunch more and you'll be fine. Andy still has bad fire resist, so beating her isn't too bad for this build. Just be wary of big chunks of poison, cause those will still be dangerous. The scale mail she drops is Hawk Mail, a pretty fun item with the much too rare cannot be frozen mod on it, but I would never take this over a smoke. The Spiked Club is Stout Nail, a good early game weapon, but we've far outgrown it at this point. If you are playing along as a fire build and you want to farm in early Hell, you have great options. You can choose to rerun Andariel as many times as you like. She drops a ton of items. The other option you have is going to the Stony Tomb in the Rocky Waste. Nothing here will naturally be fire immune and it can be very close to town, making it amazing for farming. It's a level 85 area as well, so it's the highest you can get in the game and any item you want can drop there. You can use the smaller areas in between the zones to funnel enemies so you don't get surrounded. The maggot lair will be the same as in normal and in Nightmare. All you need to do is be careful careful and check the mods on the monsters before attacking them, and not much can go wrong there. While it can be a terrible zone, it isn't bad at all for the bear we are playing. It ends up taking some serious time, but that is to be expected, cause the Fireclaw bear is a lot of things, but fast and efficient are none of them. The final room turns out to be pretty busy, but Claudia is still wearing the Kuko Shakaku with its piercing, and her cold arrows end up clearing the room pretty fast, allowing us to collect the Staff of Kings. The Claw Viper Temple has big do as I say, not as I do vibes when I run in like a maniac, get cornered and have to leave the game to survive. On the second playthrough I decide to take my time. The Vipers can be very dangerous cause they hit like a truck and are also Might Aura enchanted. I end up forced all the way back to the entrance, but manage to stand my ground. As I tell Fangs King about how I won't give in, there is no more denying and I've gotta face it. The aura on him is called Holy Shock. It adds a bunch of lightning damage to his attacks and pings the area around him with lightning damage. Effectively, it's just a resistance check, so act accordingly. To make sure my resistances are taken care of, I decide to put a Thal and a Ral rune into the helm I imbued, making it a 110 resistance helm, a serious chunk out of the total requirement. The Arcane Sanctuary is another natural funnel, so not much to talk about here strategy wise. However, the ghosts have a higher chance to drop runes than other enemies, making this an amazing farming place for high runes. If you're a lightning based character, this is the place you want to farm. The magic find on my Saigon's boots finally pays off when a pair of unique shark skin boots drop from a ghost. These are water walks. They have 20 faster run walk, 15 dexterity, which is great for attack rating, 40 to 65 life, which we rolled perfect 65 on, and cause our resistances are so good, the extra 5% to my maximum fire resist actually matters for a change. I want to equip these over the Saigon boots, but that loses me the combo bonus, so I decide to switch to the Venom grips I found earlier and a dual resist belt with some life on it. At the end of the Arcane Sanctuary we find the Summoner, who honestly is kind of a weakling, so we take care of him before remembering that I hadn't done the Radament quest yet, so I make my way into the sewers. The first thing I need to do is find a safe spot to work from. It's a good thing I had been clearing things. I can drag the group in front behind a corner to split things up and make everything a bit more bearable. Fire Immune and Cold Enchanted is a horrible combination of mods for me to encounter, cause I don't have Canopy Frozen. Even a couple of normal skeletons like this ends up being a big problem for me, and Claudia is earning her paycheck something fierce here. Another terrifying mod to encounter is the Fanaticism. You can recognize it by seeing monsters having an orange aura. This makes them hit faster and harder, which is just bad news bears all around. All you can do is tactically retreat, deal with those couple of monsters, rinse and repeat. If you have the room to do it, just retreat back so far that the aura falls off. It will make your life much easier. If you get lucky, the aura carrier will follow you first. Here he didn't, so I clear him out last. It all works, just don't go diving in like crazy. Fanaticism aura will get you murdered super fast. Archers around the corner can be pretty terrible as well. I got lucky and was able to just dive in, but if you can't, you can use an AoE spell to start splitting them up. Another trick that works is running in, killing one and running out again. If you are using a bear or an oak sage summon, you can summon it in the middle of them, have all of them target the summon, and you can work from there. Radament himself was cold enchanted, prolonging the fight a bit, but he isn't fire immune, so I fire started all over him and collected the book of skills and a unique warhammer. Ironstone is a big damage stick at level 27. It's a weapon that can get you through the first part of Nightmare without too much trouble, but we are way past that, so it is of no use to us anymore. In Tal Rasha's tomb, I'm honestly just sick of Act 2 and want to be done with it, so I run through it and make my way to Duriel. The boss fights in Hell are much easier than they used to be in Normal and Nightmare. The bosses deal more damage and have more life, but your build should practically be done at this point, so you are just that much more powerful than you were in Normal and Nightmare. I had no trouble just casually tanking Duriel this time around, but if you did, you can just use the strategies I explained in Normal and Nightmare to beat him. Just like antidotes, thawing potions stack duration as well, so you can always drink those. After defeating Duriel, I went ahead and upgraded my belt, so it has more slots for potions. This isn't required or anything, but it's a big quality of life moment. In Act 3, I get a so-called Great Marsh skip, which is what it's called when the spider forest links straight into the Flayer jungle, allowing me to skip the Great Marsh. There are a couple, but barely any fire immunes in the jungle, it's just the shamans, and some of the frogs if you get the Great Marsh. which should make it a good area for the werebear. However, I managed to get myself stuck here and have to fight for my life against a bunch of flayers. It's a good thing I have 2k HP and shockwave giving me a ton of survivability. This build is the most obvious slow and steady wins the race build on the planet. This full run took me more than twice as long as usual. At about 30 hours, it ends up being one of the slowest runs I've ever done on this channel, but it will survive anything the game throws at it, which is why I chose to do the guide with it. After clearing all of that out, the Jade figurine drops as well. It always drops from a random unique during Act 3, so you don't need to worry about when you find it, but I've had it drop in Travincal or even in the Durans before. A small charm drops on the way as well. It turns out to have 6 magic find. Along the way I pick up the Git bin as well. Almost gives me a 10 resist all ring with some attack rating, a big upgrade compared to the lightning resist ring I was wearing. In the Flayer dungeon I keep the dolls at bay using shockwave while letting Claudia deal with them. You want to keep the dolls about the distance I have them here, so they won't explode all over you when they die. I can't shockwave a unique doll, so I start shockwaving the normal ones while tanking the scary one. However, it's cold immune, so I have to go melee myself. Having to melee a doll is always a big risk. They deal so much damage. I end up taking the hit and surviving. Do this with one of them at a time, don't do this with groups, you will die. You can tell I'm starting to run out of patience though, cause I'm starting to slap the dolls as well. Which is another do as I say, not as I do moment. The next pack of them has the extra strong modifier. This causes even then normal attacks to hurt immensely. I'm not into that, so I just start shockwaving and hoping for the best. Even a regular doll exploding deals almost 900 damage, so be very careful with them. After all of that, I finally end up making it to the witch doctor and take him down. I do feel like I forgot something here though. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it'll get back to me at some point. Having made my way through the best rune farming area in the game, the Lower Kurast. Just hit up the chest here and go to town as much as you want. You can find every rune here, up to Burr. It'll take a while though. I decide to go back and clear out the spider cavern. The best way to do this is to use the tunnels to funnel the spiders. If you fight them in the tightest spots, you can never get surrounded. However, it turns out that I am not able to tank Cesark the Burning, so I have to run back and have him chase me. Good thing I know that I cleared everything out, so I can just run back and guide him until I get them positioned into the small area again. In the end, it didn't even matter, cause I put my trust into Claudia's damage to deal with the fire immune Cesark, and even though I tried to tank, it all fell apart, so I just started running for it and grabbed Khalim's eye. At this point I thought my game had messed up when I logged in the next day, cause it told me to go to the Flayer dungeon, but I was pretty sure that I had already picked up the brain. I ended up looking back at the footage to see what happened. Good times. Well, to the Flayer dungeon I go again. I decide to just run through it this time, which obviously ends with me getting stuck and having to escape again. I'm gonna be honest here for a sec, I was fucking frustrated at this point. This game sometimes just takes all of your patience and shoves it up your ass. When this happens, just go do something else. Go for a walk, go chill out a bit, do whatever. Suffering through this game is my job, so I can't just go do anything else. I can't be like, well, this area sucks, let's not pay my bills this month. So I decide to just head into the ruined temple instead to blow off some steam. In there I end up able to show off a little trick. There is a portal shrine here in a perfect position. I activate it and lure as many monsters as I can from the back of the temple out to the other side of it. There I just make a town portal and use the other portal to make my way back, allowing me to bypass all the monsters and grab Lame Essence Stone without a problem. While on my way to the Flayer dungeon for the third fucking time, an amulet of the whale drops, increasing my tankiness even more. If only my damage got boosted at some point as well. Third time is the charm and I finally open the chest and pick up Khalim's brain. At this point, this character feels like it will survive, but is seriously lacking in wild things. I don't even know how to explain it, but this character just isn't doing enough and ends up forced to run through everything. To combat this, I decide to get the Travincal waypoint, cause it has a static location anyway, and head back into Nightmare to farm the counters for some runes. I follow it up by what I think is the biggest mistake I made the entire run. I decide to use Larzuk's quest reward to put sockets into a faceblade. This will give it 6 sockets. In those I put Val Io Ith Eld El Hell, making the rune word Unbending Will. On paper this rune word looks amazing. 28 increased attack speed, 335 enhanced damage, prevent monster heal, a bunch of strength and vitality, and a couple of other solid mods. All in all, seems like nothing would be wrong here. here. And there isn't anything wrong with the runeword itself, but it's just not a great choice for this build, and I spent a lot of resources to get it. A Fel rune is pretty rare to get on a run like this, and you only get 3 socket quests. It would have been a much stronger play to go to the lower Kuras and look for something there. I should have just taken more time here, just farmed some more. For the council, I did the same as I claimed I did in normal and isolated them for a much more reasonable fight. All of them together can get crazy hard, so don't do that if you're not used to it. I've had spawns that kill even my fully decked out characters in an instant. If all of them spawn with auras and some extra strong or something nuts like that, just reroll them by leaving the game and coming back again. The lightning immune members aren't too bad at all, but half of them are fire immune, so you're going to have to chip away at them while the mercenary deals that damage. Make sure to keep them stunned, cause they will heal each other. Down go Ismael, Gallop and Torque, with their deaths completing the 5th quest of the act. In the Durans you have 2 options. You can either take your time and go through slowly but surely, or you can just shockwave everything and run like a bear out of hell. If you decide to fight, make sure your fire and poison resistances are good, and be careful with the maulers. They have 15% crushing blow in Nightmare and 25% crushing blow in Hell. You can always use the choke points to make sure you don't get surrounded. I wish my damage was higher though. At this point everything just feels like scraping the bottom of the barrel for damage. One thing I do have to mention, and even though I didn't do it here, you can lure Mephisto to the very culty sounding blood river and make your way to the other side of it. If you do it correctly, you can take him down without him attacking back. It only works on ranged characters though. If you know how to do it, you can also get him stuck on other stuff like the corners, up the stairs. The river is just the easiest way to do it. This trick is called the Mo trick. Like in Nightmare, Mephisto is just a resistance check. If your resistances are good, he isn't a hard fight. Don't die to the random spirits popping out of the ground, by the way. I've seen many people die by letting the poison take them down to 1 and then having a spirit snipe them off, which is hilarious until it happens to you. He ends up dropping a set amulet. It turns out to be a different style of not an Angelics, in the form of being a Vidalas. With the first 3 acts done, I am going to call it for this video. So apparently this is going to be a 4-parter. Next video will be me getting that Guardian Bear while deep diving in on Act 4 and 5. Thank you all for watching,